Hey guys, Jason Wilmot here, and I'm excited to interview my friend Eric Bork. Eric came through the coaching program not too long ago, and what we're going to do is we're just going to follow up. I want to just follow up with an interview with him to kind of understand where he was when he came into the program, what he's learned within the program, and kind of some next steps. So first of all, Eric, sir, I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this today.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. No problem at all.
Well, perfect. Well, let's hop right into this. So Eric, you joined the group coaching, and it was about 6 weeks long, and we've touched base after then as well. But like walking back, let's try to give whoever's listening to this a little bit of context. What was kind of your background coming into this? Can you just allude about a little bit about what you do, your history in online marketing, and just
Sure.
take it from there?
Yeah, so I've been in a marketing role for about 5 years, but it was always in higher education. And so I was a director, and then I was a VP, and had always kind of been a marketing administrator, meaning I always outsourced or always hired out the digital marketing part of our efforts. And so I knew what Google Ads was, and I knew how it worked from the standpoint that it puts ads in front of people. And I knew how social media ads worked, and that you target them at people, but I didn't know how the wires connected or how any of that actually, how to piece that all together, especially how to track and go back and retarget and all that. So when I made a decision to leave education and go into financial services back at the first of this year, I kind of took a step down from the administration level down to more of a technician level or a specialist level, right? And so all of a sudden it was kind of like, oh crap, I don't know how to do this. And so I took an SEO course through Stanford and picked up a few things, and then read a bunch of books, picked a few things, went through all of Google's classes, went through all of Facebook's online trainings, picked up a few things, but there wasn't never anything that kind of tied all that together. And so Jeremy, who you know and I work with, and he kind of sent me over the link for your class and said, what do you think about doing this one? And I, absolutely. Because, I had gone through a few different training programs that are supposed to take, smart, educated people and show them how things work, and it wasn't working. So we went through the 6 weeks with you, and then I went back through and watched things again. And now that we're in the 1 week kind of implementation phase and taking it one day at a time. Right? That sounds like a recovery program, but that's not what I mean. We're going back through and we're implementing it now. And so it's all coming together. Like just today, this morning, I got up earlier than normal and I think I did 60 something different time-based retargeting audiences in Facebook, right? Nice. Just like right off the bat. And I was like, oh, I know how to do that. That's easy. I just uploaded a bunch of customer lists into Google Ads today, and kind of working on editing some content to point the right messaging at the right people. It just makes a lot more sense now.
Well, that's cool. That's encouraging to hear. So just to clarify, so we went through the 6 week course, and now you and Jeremy are kind of going back week by week and refocusing on what was kind of covered, and then you're just kind of doing a deep dive into that. So
yeah, so we went through and followed along with you, and then because we have access to the courses still, I was able to go back and rewatch what I thought I maybe, could use more work on. And having access to that library was super helpful. And still having access, I looked up something this morning to make sure I was doing something in the right sequence, right? One of your videos.
Yeah, I have to dip back into my own videos from time to time just to remember, like, okay, is that how I set this up? So more like a Google Tag Manager and stuff like that. Anyways, not to get aside. Let me ask you this question. What were you personally hoping to accomplish by doing this course? So I know that you and Jeremy kind of decided to do this together, but were there any personal things that you were really like you said, you've done SEO, you've done Google Ads, Facebook ads, you've hired this out, you've seen this done, you've learned about it. Was there something in particular that you were really eager to learn how to do?
It's really stitching all the pieces together and finding the shortcuts to it, because you can, my approach to SEO is like, oh, we have to rewrite the entire website. or we have to redo everything because I don't know how it was done previously. And so this thing, the funnel accelerator, really kind of lays out, you don't have to do that. You have to reset everything. Here are the steps that connect the real important parts. And here's how you set up the retargeting, and how you really dial down and get into the person you're looking for that's warmest to move on your product, right? That connecting those dots and understanding how the analytics connects to the social, connects to your website, and how you track it all back and use one algorithm to refine your audience to go to point another platform at an audience is like, that's cool. Like using Facebook to dial down an audience to put into Google. Like, that's pretty rad.
I like that. And I like that you're kind of referring to this as stitching everything together. Like, it feels like I think it's like most people in this space where you understand like a little bit here and a little bit there. Your danger is probably enough to be, running something on your own, but it's so frequently or so infrequently does somebody kind of, I should say it's not very often that people get the opportunity to put all of these pieces together. And
Right.
I think without that, you just don't have the ability to kind of understand or think through maybe how the funnel should look. So keeping all of this in mind, so your experience in digital marketing, everything that you've learned up to then, right? Were there ever problems, and maybe you've already answered this, but is there kind of like a certain problem or obstacle that you can think of in your mind that you kind of came up against over and over and over, where suddenly, like after this, I don't know if suddenly, but after this coaching program, it's finally like you're like, oh, okay, now I understand how to get that. Was there anything like that that kind of occurred?
So I'm going to give you a big broad answer and then a real dialed in answer. So
Sure.
broadly, the whole reason I was even qualified to be in marketing in the first place is because I have a really big art background. And so like the content and the creative was never a problem. Like that, I can just crank that out without even thinking about it. Being able to provide, show a return on things, that working, when you're in higher ed and nonprofit, like your budget's fixed and whatever happens. When you're in financial services or insurance or anything like that, ROI is everything. I mean, what you can project down to the penny, every dollar you can bring back and everything you can kind of show proof for what works and what doesn't, that affects the company bottom line, and that affects how everything else goes, how your career goes, how things plan out, or things go from there. So being able to project that return is a big deal, and so we're getting closer to that. We're far more efficient with our ad spend and with our audiences, and we're not just blasting messaging out to whoever is interested in insurance. That's not it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my big answer. The funnel accelerator helped me kind of be able to stand my own ground and say like, oh, we're doing this and it's bringing this back, and this is producing this, and this thing isn't working, so we're going to cut that off and put it aside, and we're going to dial in on this one. I'm more specific. I almost forgot your question, but I'm going to go more specifically, like the little things that make sense and are clearer. Like I said earlier, the time-based audiences, and that makes a lot of sense to me. The amount of detail you can go into on retargeting is pretty amazing. And I just didn't really think that direction. It's more like, oh, here's for our business, we point, our clients are all doctors. And so I just go, oh, doctors, point ads at doctors. But this is like, no, you can really get super granular and really point at the right messaging at the right people for the most optimized return. Right?
Yeah, that's a great answer, or great answers. And thank you for kind of going broad and then kind of going narrow with that. And yeah, I think one of the so about the time-based retargeting, I can kind of speak to those people who are listening, and feel free to chime in here too. But I think what most folks struggle with, or most online businesses struggle with, or not online business, most businesses struggle with online marketing, this idea that you can kind of program what you want to put in front of people, and when you want to put it in front of people, for how long, the messages, the stories. Can you kind of speak to that, what you mean by time-based retargeting and what you're trying to do with that?
Right. So the messaging change, the time-based retargeting has to do with um, based from the last time somebody viewed a specific piece of content or a specific page, and you say, okay, someone looked at my quote form, and so the amount of time that from when they see that form, they're going to be a hotter lead. The more time it takes for them to come back to you, the cooler they're going to get. And so your messaging on day one might be different than your messaging on day 5 or day 12. Or, Facebook lets you go out 180 days. So I've built an audience that was day 15 to day 16 to day 180, because those are probably going to be cold fish for the most part, but we still want them to see, we still want brand recognition. We still want, they may come back in the spring and say, hey, I do need this product. So we'll just kind of keep them aware, keep them going. So that's what I was referring to.
Yeah, I like that. I love that. And I think, businesses, and the majority of businesses out there don't have retargeting in place, and that's okay. Like it's something to work towards in the future, but I think you nailed it, where it's just like, not everybody might not be ready to buy right now. Like you're sitting in traffic and hopefully, you get some home runs or headshots or whatever you kind of refer to it as, like people coming to your website and opting in. But we all know that that's not the case. And so you kind of building out these campaigns to put ads back in front of them to just kind of keep them warm, so that, when they do, have this thought of coming back, then, they've been just kind of warmed up to your brand via testimonials or education, or just, the content that you're putting out to keep them warm. So I think that's really wise. And I think a lot of businesses can obviously, leverage that. So, and your answer here might kind of feed into the next question, but it was just kind of like, were there any moments, whether it was Google Analytics or Tag Manager, Facebook ads, display ads, or YouTube ads, or search ads, do you recall any times where something just kind of clicked for you, like this major aha, like you just unlocked some sort of new concept, and now you're like, okay, I know all of these different things, and now I can kind of put them in here? Was there anything like that for you?
I think there were a few things. I'm thinking of Tag Manager right now because I just didn't know. Right. Like the idea that you would, I was under the impression that you would access all these things individually, and there wasn't glue that like stitched in together kind of. And so going through the module on Tag Manager went, and the little tag assistant guy that you had up in the corner, yep. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah. That just makes so much sense. And so I still have some growth to do there, but that just kind of opened my eyes, like, oh, you can pull Tag Assistant and see what's firing on what pages, and that's how you go back and test things. And that's where, that's kind of the repository for where your bridges live. When you're connecting different platforms, like that's your identification and proof that like the things are talking to each other, right? At least that's how I think of it. I may not be right.
I like that analogy a lot. Yeah, I kind of always refer to Google Tag Manager as where everything kind of bottlenecks. It all comes together. And for those people who aren't maybe necessarily familiar with Google Tag Manager, that was the major that's interesting that you said that, because that was kind of the major thing that really unlocked my ability to either piece things together, implement tracking, fire audiences off of, who knows what, a scroll, a click, a video view. But it was kind of that, just like, oh, I didn't realize I could do all of these things. And then the really nice piece about Google Tag Manager, and you kind of said this, is like, and man, I just need to listen to this recording again, how you said how all of these bridges kind of connect together. But yeah, you can fire one event, and that event can send to other platforms, and you can start building audiences, and then building retargeting based upon those people who take that event. So want to give this back to you. I didn't mean to cut you off there on Google Tag Manager. Was there anything else?
I think there's a bunch of little things, and at the top, and I know there are. I don't think there are. There's some like duplicating ad sets. At first, I didn't.
Yes.
I don't get it. I don't get it. And then this morning, I was duplicating ad sets, and so I was like, oh, okay, got it. like it's kind of like you never cooked before, and then someone's like, "Oh, do it al dente." I'm like, I don't know what that means. What are you saying to me?
Yeah,
Water and so, but once you get into it and you practice and kind of, then it makes sense. And so um, that may be a weird analogy, but I thought there's a bunch of little tips and tricks in there, and they're probably so ingrained in my brain from listening and watching the videos and doing the sessions with you that I'm not doing a great job of identifying.
oh,
And a bunch of little shortcuts that are in there that are just in the way I do things now.
that's a terrific answer, and I think that's part of it. It's just like you learn where to duplicate an ad set, like you said, and that saves you so much time rather than going in and I feel like half the battle in digital marketing is leveraging your time wisely and knowing what you can duplicate and or copy and then edit kind of underneath it, so you're not having to just go out and cook everything up from scratch every single time. And yeah, you're right. Like I feel that answer is actually pretty accurate, because it's like a little tiny hacks that put together. It's going to save you a lot of time or a lot of energy. You can't like optimize your website by 20% just with doing one thing. But if you can kind of, do 2% here, 3% here, and they kind of all come together, I think that's kind of similar to this idea that you're just learning systems and learning how to navigate and kind of use the system to your advantage. So, okay, a couple more questions. Now that you've gone through the coaching, and again, you kind of said that we're continuing to touch base on this, we're continuing to follow up. But is there one thing that you're most excited about now that you've gone through the coaching?
I think it's going to be, again, it's the proof thing.
Hmm.
It's going to be showing. Um, it's really just agility, man. Like
Hmm.
I want to give you a canned answer. It's really just agility. Like I just, when you start working out and you're sore and it kind of sucks and you don't feel good and stuff, but like now I feel like I have a little more digital agility, and that sounds like a tagline for something.
Ooh,
But
digital agility.
there's truth to it. I just, there's more confidence in like navigating, having how many different tabs open at once and just hopping between them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm excited about. It's just like there's like everything's just been boosted a bit. Like everything just feels like as far as my knowledge of the half dozen different platforms that are needed to
Mm-hmm.
make this thing work.
Yes. All right. Well, I like that, digital agility. We might see that in some copy at some point. Okay, so to what you said just there, half dozen platforms. Is there a specific platform that you're really excited about learning more on? Whether it's Facebook, Instagram, AdRoll, YouTube, Google Display, Google Search. We kind of cover all those things, but like, is there one that you're just like chomping at the bit to go on?
So I think, and I haven't had time to go back into it because I've just like jumped on these social ads like and YouTube ads like crazy. Um, I think there's so much more into analytics. The way that you show folks how to use analytics is pretty intriguing.
Hmm.
I was always familiar with just the overview page and like, oh, here's the pages page and here's the audience page, and here you can see who's on and who's not, and that's kind of cool. There's some reporting in there that you kind of touch on that I think this thing goes deep. This thing could go really wild if you are able to put the time and resources into it. I think there's some more to analytics that can get pretty wild.
Hmm. Well, that's a terrific answer, because if you get in there and you're looking, and so I want to connect the dots for the people who are listening who maybe don't kind of know what we're talking about here. But like in analytics, when you're sending in clicks and we're using UTMs, so we're attaching snippets, we're attaching strings of data to the inbound clicks, we can see how they perform. Like there's no more guessing on the back end. Like, if you're sending in somebody from Facebook or from Instagram or from Google Ads, like we're going to know how they perform. And kind of the area where all of those clicks come together is Google Analytics. And yeah, I think you nailed it, because yeah, that is the proof at the end of the day, right? It's fun to set up campaigns on YouTube or on Facebook and all of that. But at the end of the day, like, you are responsible for your efforts. And the way that you do that normally is through the proof that you can find in Google Analytics. So that's a good answer. Is there something specific that you are trying to figure out in Google Analytics?
Not really. I think the reporting is what I'm excited about getting into, and looking at the source and medium, and well, that's going to point me in another direction too. Because like the way you go into UTMs, the way you explain UTMs are great. Like that is. Also learned a new word, concatenation.
There you
right?
go.
That one's burned in there.
There you go.
I knew what a UTM was from the standpoint that it was a long string of characters that identifies what a thing is. I did not know how to put one together. Did not understand how to implement one. But this morning I built one and put it in a marketing email and sent it out to test a new one platform over another, and UTM's how you do that. And so I just jumped from analytics to UTMs, but that was something I didn't understand.
Hey, no, that was it. I tell you what, like, the two things that really unlocked my my love for kind of growth hacking, you kind of named them. It was Google Analytics, because somebody taught me. So the Japanese app company that I was working for, and kind of cut my teeth on at the time, they taught me about UTMs, and I was like, all of a sudden I was like, whoa, you can actually track what you're doing. And I was like, that's incredible. And then I didn't know Google Tag Manager at the moment, because that's the thing that kind of ends the loop, right? You're sending people into a funnel, and there's always that endpoint, but how do you kind of create that endpoint? That was always a little beyond me at that point. And so Google Tag Manager was the fact that I could create that endpoint, but it was always Google Analytics to go in and find the proof. And I could go in and tell, my project manager at the time, like, hey, this is what's working and this is what's not. So that's really fun that you did pull UTMs out of Google Analytics, because I think that's right on par for this. So last question. Okay.
Yeah.
What advice would you have? You can keep talking if you want to, but what advice would you have for somebody considering this coaching course?
There's a few things. Okay. Yeah. So don't get intimidated by all the terms, like all the phraseology, nomenclature, taxonomy, whatever you want to call it. Like, there's a lot of words that are going to be new. Just go with it. Like, if you have to watch it a couple times to pick up on what the difference between the Google Ads, Google Analytics, Tag Manager, all those things, or Events Manager, or UTMs. If any of those are new to you, just stick with it, because and go to the sessions, go to the group sessions, and take notes, right? It's school. If you treat it like school and you take it seriously, you'll do well. If you kind of show up sometimes and you watch the videos fast and you don't take notes, and you won't get much out of it. I was fortunate enough to have this as be part of my job, and so I had time to take it seriously. And there are a lot of things to cover to kind of put this whole flywheel funnel accelerator thing together. And that means you got to learn each one of those things. And so Jason does a really good job of explaining. You do a really good job of explaining those. Sorry, I was talking to them.
Thank you, sir. Hey,
right. So don't be scared of things you don't know, and don't assume that, oh, he's talking about UTMs. I don't know what that is. I need to I'm done. That's not the case. Just keep churning through it. And it'll start to crystallize, and it kind of make sense as you do that. And if you know some of the stuff, but you don't know other, like I said, my background was in content. That's kind of how I stepped into marketing in the first place. There are some parts of Hacktics that I played at 1.5 or 1.75. So I already know this part. Live through it, and that's when you have extra time to go back and learn more of the stuff that you need more work on. But definitely go to the group sessions. You get to keep the videos, like you keep access to the videos. And so that's super helpful. Like it's a resource. You know, it's been a few weeks since we actually finished the 6-week course, and I'm still, you know, pulling it up today, this morning, to like look up something, make sure I'm following the click trail the right way.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, well, thank you, Eric. I do appreciate this. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day, being vulnerable with your answers. I know it's not always like I'm putting you on the spot to ask you all these questions, and I appreciate you going through this, this interview. But two, I do appreciate you coming through the group course, and like you said, showing up. You and Jeremy were some of the folks who showed up the most, whether it was group coaching, whether it was one-on-one Q&A, and I feel like the fact that you came and you did show up, you're going to start seeing, well, not start seeing, but you are seeing some immediate results, and it feels like you just have a handle for this, and it's going to be really exciting just to continue to check in with you guys to see how it's continuing to go. So
I feel like I just stepped out of the minors, so you know, we'll see what happens.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, good. Hey, well, once again, thank you for this. I appreciate it. And we will catch you soon. Hopefully, maybe we could do a follow-up just to see how things are going. But again, I appreciate it, Eric.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Yeah.